And we are live. What's going on YouTube Live? It's your boy Billy Rowe. Today is Wednesday. If it's Wednesday, I'd like to welcome you to the first row. I'd like to welcome you back to the Wednesday first row. But if it is Wednesday, you should already know what that means. It's time for your Wednesday word. That's Wednesday word. Jumping in straight into it. Tonight's topic is long overdue because I wanted to do this last week. And unfortunately, due to technical difficulties, I was not able to get a Wednesday word up for you guys last week. So round two, they are not them. And I said they are not them in the topic, but it's they are not them. As always, I like to explain what I mean by my topic. So what do I mean by the topic? They're not them. In life, we have experiences. There's no way around it. We're going to, from the day you get here to the day you leave, you're going to have different experiences every single day. What's going on, Mark Anthony? And sometimes what happens is those experiences will bleed over into other parts of our life or other experiences that we have. And so when I say the words, they are not them, what I mean is the experiences that we have with other people, though they may be positive, though they may be negative, whatever they may be, let's say they're negative in this particular case, those experiences that we have that are negative with that individual sometimes will bleed over into our experiences with other individuals. And we have to remind ourselves that the other individual we are dealing with in the new experience, whether it's similar or not, the new experience is not the person that we had the negative experience with. So it's not a reckless abandon and, just continue to recklessly move through life and not learn from our experiences. However, it's about giving people, individual people, the ability to show you who they are in the experiences that you are having with them. And though sometimes the experiences you may be having with them may be familiar, may be reminiscent to other experiences that you've had, it's still not the person you had that negative experience with. So give that person a chance or the opportunity to show you who they are instead of trying to paint them with somebody else's paint from the experience you had with them. So that's what I mean when I say they're not them. They're not them. So tonight I have 5 tools that I want to share with you on this topic of they're not them, on how to be able to learn from the experiences that you're having with people as individuals and take those lessons, but not necessarily paint them broadly into new experiences. So the very first tool that I came up with when it comes to they're not them is it's good to get better at asking yourself what experiences you're using as your compass. So when you're asking yourself what experience you're using as your compass, going into the good experiences that you have, let's say you've dealt with a lot of humans and human kindness and just overall the good in people is what you've experienced. Fortunately for you, you're going to have a compass that says inherently people are good. However, on the adverse side of that is that if you've had a bunch of experiences growing up and you found that people are not as trustworthy or not as reliable or not as we're just going to leave it at reliable because there's so many different ways you can go, not as reliable, what you begin to do is to say, okay, well, because of where I grew up in or the environment that I was in, now even when I'm outside of that environment, or even when I'm in that environment, but more so outside of that environment, I'm going to assume that the rest of the world is exactly like where I came from. And one of the benefits of, I think, that every person in every country should possibly do is leave their country just to go and see what the world is like outside of their bubble, because we think of our bubble as, oh, your house, your mom, your dad, your sisters, your brothers. You think of your immediate family. That's my bubble. These are people that I know inside this little bubble. However, then when you go into your city, now it's, oh, your city bubble, and then it's your state bubble. And I just recently moved to a new state, so now I'm finding that that state bubble is different than where I live at now in a new state. But then when you look at the United States as a whole and you're like, okay, there's some things that we're accustomed to or that are kind of like social norms and things like that, and you move out of the country or you just take a visit out of the country, you find that life is not necessarily spinning in the same way that it's spinning in the United States. So the reason why the first tool is ask yourself what experiences you're using as your compass is because if you're using negative experiences as your compass, then you're always going to look at the situation or the experience that you're in, regardless of where it's at, with a very critical eye, a very suspicious eye. I think I want to use the word suspicious, suspicious eye. And so when you're able to look at your compass and you say, oh, well, I'm heavily vested on the negative things, or sometimes I'm heavily vested on the positive things, it allows you to say, okay, what is my guiding light, and how can I get my instincts or my gut better in tune with the experience that I'm in, the present experience, not the experiences that I've had, but the present experience that I'm in. And so I did a writing on Facebook about, I think like 2 weeks ago now, but it was talking about somebody who had a bad experience with Black people. And in this experience that they were talking about, it was like you could hear in the tone of their writing that it was like, yeah, I don't trust any Black people. And so I'm talking to this person like, hey, sounds like you had a bad experience. Instead of me going to the default compass of, oh, well, you're a racist and you don't like Black people, I was more trying to come from a place of understanding, because this is one person who has their opinion, their experiences. Maybe I can understand their experiences and shed some light into that experience. So I'm asking this person, hey, so sounds like you had a bad experience. Do you mind sharing your experience? And he was like, no, my experience is my business. Oh, okay. Yeah, your experience is your business. Absolutely. And I don't mean to pry. However, when we, taking it away from him, but when we as individuals have a skewed compass, and we start saying, well, I can't trust all Black people, I can't trust all white people, I can't trust all business owners, I can't trust all politicians. When we start painting like that, what happens is now it becomes the person who is that, in that group, in that categorization, it becomes their business. Because for this person who had a negative experience with he and his wife with Black people, now it wasn't my business. But now that you believe in your mind that Black people are like this, well, guess what? I happen to be a Black person. So I'm a little concerned about that, because now we can be walking across the street from each other or walking on the same side of the street from each other, and you automatically assume with that compass, that faulty device, that my intentions are hostile because of your experience with another individual Black person who happens to be the same color as me, but doesn't necessarily have the same intentions as me. So that's why that first tool is really critical, and I spent a little extra time on it, asking yourself what experiences you are using for your compass. It's critical because of the fact that you begin to paint other people with that compass. You begin to say, up, you're north, up, you're north, up, you're north, up, you're south, and you start painting them with that, and it can become dangerous, and it can become reckless, and it can get you into a position where you're actually physically in jeopardy, or you're professionally in jeopardy, or just mentally stressed about things that nobody else is thinking about. Think about that. So moving on, tool number 2. Hey, Bob, glad you could join. Tool number 2 is some lessons are exclusive, and this kind of ties in with that whole compass thing. The thing is that anytime we find ourselves using the all statements, all people are like this, all men are dogs, all women are promiscuous, like when we start using the word all in our statements, those statements typically are not true statements. Like outside of like all humans breathe oxygen, all humans need food, like some factual things where all is true. However, when we start looking at our opinions or our experiences that we have, and we start saying all statements, we're losing the exclusivity of our experiences that we're having. We have to realize that in every single experience that we're having, every single experience, and now I didn't say all, but in every single experience that we're having with another human, even to the extent where the other human is doing nothing wrong, there is a human element there. And there are good humans, there are bad humans, there are humans who have illnesses, there's humans who are healthy, there's all kinds of humans. And so instead of, trying to make our lessons instead of making our lessons these blanket lessons that just cover everything in every category and every stereotype, we have to, it's best to stray away from that and realize that our engagement with other humans is truly an exclusive engagement. And you can be in the same situation with hundreds of different individuals and get hundreds of different outcomes. So the exclusivity of our lessons really are our experience. I'm sorry, the exclusivity of our experiences is simply that those lessons, though we may learn something, we may glean something, we may learn something about ourselves in those experiences. However, it is exclusive to how we feel about that particular person. And I remember there's when I was younger, they used to say, oh, it's a thin line between love and hate. It's a thin line between love and hate. And in that thin line between love and hate, I started thinking about how, in certain instances, and I'll use an example. My best friend gave me a very good example of this. There was something that we were doing, and she forgot something, and I was just like, it's cool, whatever. You're my best friend. I'm not really tripping about it. However, I came to her probably like a couple of weeks later, and I was frustrated about something that was very similar circumstances. However, it was with my wife. And I was like, I don't have any patience for this. And she's like, how can you, we were just in this situation like 2 weeks ago, and you had patience and understanding that, hey, life happens. And now all of a sudden it's almost the exact same situation, but the person is different, and you don't have that patience and that understanding. Like, you got to work on that. And really, it was something that I needed to work on. That's why I have amazing friends. It was something that I had to work on. What's going on, Brother Bruce? And that's really what this tool is about. That some lessons are exclusive, is that some of the lessons and the experiences that we have only pertain to that individual. However, that's more so we find on the negative side. On the positive side, some of those lessons will branch out into other individuals, or some of those experiences will branch out into other individuals. And so, like, for me, it's the patience, learning that has to branch out and blossom, and the frustration and the aggravation, that actually is an exclusive lesson that I'm learning that I have with this person. Now, that whole thin line between love and hate thing, the reason I think the thin line exists, it's really not because of, oh, well, I could like you 1 minute and not like you the next. I feel like the more that we know, the more that we connect, the more experiences we have with an individual, the thinner that line becomes. And then the fewer experiences, or the more positive experiences that we have with that individual, the broader that line becomes. Because now there's this room for, hey, things have always been pretty good, relatively great, not really worried about it. That line gets bigger. But then when things, finances are struggling, you're trying to figure out how to raise kids, trying to figure out how to make a marriage work, and trying to figure out all those things, you start seeing that line to begin to thin. So that is the tool number 2, is some lessons are exclusive. Realize that is where stereotypes originate from, when you try to take exclusive lessons and categorize them as the general lessons for everybody else. Realize that you have that the best opportunity that you will have is to look at your lessons, look at your experiences, and say, what can I take to apply in general, and what can I take to apply to the situation? Break it into 2 halves. There's meat on both sides of that bone, but figure out which meat you should eat and which meat you should discard. Moving on, tool number 3. The third tool is, when it comes to they're not them, is work through the pain. And so what do I mean by this? They're not them. Going back to that accusation nature that, well, because my dad did me wrong, then you're going to do me wrong. Or because, this girl cheated on me, then all girls are going to cheat on me. Work through that pain. And the reason I say work through that pain, especially when the pain is derived from heartbreak or broken heart syndrome, something I just made up right now, especially when it comes from a relationship. The reason it's important to work through that pain is because when you don't work through that pain, it's almost like, because I did this today. It's almost like when you bite your cheek on the inside of your mouth while you're eating, and there's like a little bit of swelling that takes place. And now you go to eat the next thing, and all of a sudden you're biting your cheek in the same area, and you're biting your cheek in the same area. And it almost hurts a lot more the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth time that you bite your cheek. Why? Because the cheek hasn't had an opportunity to heal. And so you're continually gnawing on your cheek. Number one, it's now out of balance from what your brain knows the calculation of your cheek is. But number two, it's already damaged, it's already swollen, it's already injured. And so it hasn't had the opportunity to heal and to recover from its first injury. And so that's why working through the pain is so important, because when you don't work through the pain, you walk around with a suspect attitude. You walk around and everybody, now you're like a super sleuth from Carmen San Diego, trying to figure out where everybody is and how they're doing you wrong and all the underlying stuff from the stories that you're telling yourself because you never worked through the pain, how you can figure out all the answers. So that is a very important tool. And I actually broke it down into 3 different categories when I was dealing with this particular tool. Number one, we naturally avoid pain. Like if you put your hand on the stove and the pilot is hot, or the stove or the pan is hot, you naturally jerk your hand away. It's a natural reflex, and it's normal for us to want to avoid pain. However, when it comes to our experiential pains, not necessarily like physical abuse or anything like that, but our experiences that we have with people that can hurt us emotionally, that can hurt us mentally, that can make us a little less trusting. When it comes to those pains, we have to work. I don't even want to say I recommend. We have to work through those things in order to continue to have other healthy, unique experiences. And so I liken this to when I dislocated my ankle. I dislocated my ankle many, many years ago now. I don't remember how many years ago it was, but I remember when I dislocated my ankle, initially I didn't feel any pain. I didn't even know I dislocated my ankle until I went to stand up. Once I stood up and then hopped to the dugout, I realized, okay, I can't leave my ankle in this position. And so fortunately, I don't recommend this. Don't try this at home. I'm going to disclaimer that. I had a teammate who hit my ankle, popped it back into place. So I knew from the moment that that ankle was popped back in place that this was worse than any ankle sprain that I had ever had, because I never seen my foot sideways. I get home as fast as I can. I get home, ice, Advil, try to elevate, and I'm like, next day I got to go to the urgent care center because I don't feel like anything's broken, but I need to go to the urgent care center. I go to this urgent, I wake up in the next day, my foot is super swollen. I cannot put any pressure on this foot. So I start off with hopping, like, because I don't have crutches, I just hop. So I hop to the car, hop to the doctor, get to the doctor gives me crutches. Now I'm on crutches. My ankle is still not healed. This is what I mean, work through the pain. My ankle is still not healed. I'm on crutches and I'm getting around a little bit faster, but as you know, with crutches, you're on one foot, so on and so forth. Then I get to the place where I don't need the crutches anymore. My foot kind of begins to stabilize a little bit. Well, not a little bit, it stabilizes a lot. However, there was like this little bit of swelling that was under my foot. So though I could walk without crutches, it just hurt with that swelling because I wasn't doing the things necessary to drive the swelling out of my foot. And I remember I would walk with like a limp. And this is the second stage that we get to. Once we get to where we think we are recovering, we begin to do things out of uncertainty when we don't work through the pain. We do things out of uncertainty like limp. We don't want to put too much pressure on it. Well, what happened with me walking with a limp is even when my foot recovered and I was able to actually play basketball and do other things, I was still walking with that same limp. And this is where it's critical when it comes to working through the pain. It was only when I finally said, okay, I know mentally that I'm recovered. I know that the swelling is no longer under my foot. I know that I'm walking with a limp. I'm going to have to go to rehabilitation therapy. And when it comes to working through the pain, it is a 3-step process. You're going to, obviously, there's the initial point of pain, there's that recovery process, and there's that uncertainty period between the recovery process and then rehabilitation. That is what is missing in a lot of our experiences when we do have that heartbreak, when we do have these betrayals. We never go through the rehabilitation that is necessary to get us back to a healthy compass. And what we do is we walk around emotionally with a limp for the remainder sometimes of our own lives, because we don't trust people in relationships. And I can't trust anybody. My mama did me wrong, so you're going to do me wrong. My daddy did me wrong, so you're going to do me wrong. And that is the emotional trauma that we have experienced that we have yet to enforce, because the uncertainty is there. We've yet to enforce the rehabilitation to repairing that betrayal of trust, repairing that betrayal, repairing that hurt, repairing that pain. And so that is tool number 3, working through the pain. It's critical that you work through those 3 steps. The initial step being hurt, the second step understanding through that, hey, you're coming through the recovery process and having some uncertainty, but then that rehabilitation is what really kicks it in. The fourth tool that I came up with when it comes to they're not them is be willing to change. Now, this is very funny. The reason why I say be willing to change is because at the heart of every single experience that you will have is you. It doesn't matter who you have it with. At the heart of every single experience that you have is you. I don't care if somebody is cheating on you. I don't care if somebody is playing favorites for you. I don't care if you're not getting promotions at work. At the heart of every single experience that you have with individuals and groups is you. So be willing to change. And somebody told me a long time ago that, Billy, a lot of times what happens is we go through the same experience over and over and over again until we learn the lesson that we need to learn from the experience. And that is like stuck with me for a long, like for since they basically said it to me, it stuck with me. And the reason it stuck with me is because it always prompts me to ask, Billy, what were you supposed to learn in this experience? And I know that the answer isn't all people are every time you do. Like, I know that that's not the answer. The answer is so much more deeply rooted in who I am as an individual. So you'll see people who are like, how come I always end up with the bad girls? How come I always end up with the bad boys? Why am I attracting that to me? Hmm. Well, what's the lesson that you need to learn? What are the standards and what is the foundation that you need to stand strong on about your beliefs, about who you are? And so this is why being willing to change, it can be a little difficult because when you have to say, okay, I'm having this experience frequently with these types of people, and then you're really looking at what role you're playing, it's like, oh well, they don't even have to come looking for me. I'm taking myself over to these experiences. And so what you learn how to do is say, you know what, I'm going to learn how to avoid these particular experiences. And it's not avoiding them because, oh, every time I see a guy that looks like a bad boy, I'm going to avoid him. Every time I see a girl who looks like a bad girl, I'm going to avoid her. It's about, I'm really going to spend time learning about the individual, and I'm not going to move so fast into let's be together, let's be boyfriend and girlfriend, let's be husband and wife, let's. I'm going to stop moving so fast, take my time to get to know the person and say, hey, you know what? You meet a lot of the great qualities that I have for friendship. However, you don't meet the qualities that I have for relationship as far as like a partner. So we can be friends if you're cool with that. But if you're not, then hey, I wish you the best. And that's when you're not taking, oh, well, the last guy who said that to me or the last girl who said that to me, she did me wrong. So I can't be with you. No, it's a matter of these are the things that I have identified because of the fact that I know who I am, because I know myself, and because I know that I'm going to be at the center of this interaction, not the universe revolving around me, but we're meeting in the center. I'm going to be in the center of this interaction, and because I know myself, these are the things that I know I stand strong on and I stand firm on, and that I'm not willing to compromise. And when you start being willing to make those type of changes, those changes that say I'm not going to compromise, because I have standards. A lot of people are like, oh, well, you're just going to miss out on everything. No, if I'm going to miss out on things that are below my standards, why would I care if I missed out on them? They don't meet the standard. So be willing to change. That is tool number 4. The fifth and the final tool when it comes to they're not them is very simple. It's be grateful for the experience. Um, Having an attitude that thrives on learning, that thrives on experiences, having an attitude that really seeks to find what the experience is doing to make you better, to help you continue to become the most whole version of yourself. So you have to move from authentic to whole, because I feel like what happens is we have a lack of gratitude for some of the experiences that we had. And I mean, some of the experiences that I've had in life have been trying, have been hard, have been depressing, have not been the best experiences. However, when I look and reflect on those experiences, I'm able to glean why I am the entirety of Billy today. And part of it is those experiences. Now, some of the people in those experiences, I don't interact with anymore. Like, because of the interaction that we had was negative to the point where I was like, yeah, it's best that we don't interact anymore. However, the negativity of that exclusive experience, I am not allowing it to bleed over into other experiences. Now, that doesn't mean that I get that right 100% of the time, but I'm very, very aware when I can say, hey, that's me taking this experience and putting it over here with this person who has nothing to do with that experience. And so those are the 5 tools that we came up with, or that I came up with when it comes to they're not them. Really quickly to recap over those tools. The very first tool being ask yourself what experiences you are using as your compass. Number 2 is some lessons are exclusive. Don't just take a lesson and say, okay, because it felt this way and I didn't like it, now everybody gets that lesson applied to them. The third one being work through the pain. Remember, that is the initial point of the injury, dealing with the uncertainty that comes with while the injury is healing. And then last but not least, the most important being rehab. Number 4 is be willing to change. You are at the center of every single experience that you will have on this earth. Be willing to make the changes that you need to make in order to make sure those are the greatest experiences that you can have. And then number 5 being be grateful for the experience. And again, this just ties to the growth that comes with change, the maturity that comes with change. As you experience life, as time continues to go forth, be willing to be grateful for the wisdom that is being poured into you through these experiences, whether they're good, bad, or ugly. And so those are the 5 tools that I came up with for you in regards to this. As you know, with the Wednesday word, I always like to share a personal story, something that kind of got me thinking about the topic, what got me moving and interacting with the content. And what really, this is the first time that an actual experience has like catapulted me into a complete Wednesday word. And so the story that I want to share with you is actually where I told you I don't always get this right, but there's times where I can catch when I'm doing this. And so this story is it's a very simple story. It was Mother's Day. And so for Mother's Day this year, I didn't send a present back to my son's mother. What I did is I called her and I said, hey, look, here's what I want to do for you. Next week, I want to buy lunch for you. You typically order DoorDash. And so because you order DoorDash frequently, how about I buy your lunches for you? And so it was funny because like this week, it was like, oh, well, there's a potluck and there's this and there's that. And it was like, okay, well, come on, let's get the DoorDash thing going because that's my gift to you. And finally, on like, I think it was a Thursday, DoorDash order goes in. Hey, I'm ordering DoorDash. I'll let you know how much my meal is. Okay, no problem. So DoorDash order goes through. She typically orders in a group. So I can't just look at the confirmation and say, okay, here's how much your lunch was. I have to ask her, how much was your lunch? And this is an exercise for me in trust. Now, let me be very clear. I trust this woman. I trust her with my children. I trust her with my information, with personal finances. I trust her. Don't have any kind of trust issues with her. However, what crept up was a unique experience that I had with somebody else that I didn't trust and I don't trust. And so she sends me, she's like, oh, this is how much the lunch was. And my brain was like, you need to research that receipt to find out how much the lunch was and see if she's trying to charge you for some of her homegirls' lunch, or like it was completely irrational. I'm gonna let you know it was completely irrational. And I literally had to say, stop. She's not her at all. So the trust issue that you have with her doesn't transfer over to this person because of the fact that you have this trust issue with them. This person has given you no reason to not trust them when it comes to them giving you information about, hey, this is what you need to do. This is how much I need you to pay. There's never been a trust issue there. And I had to stop and catch myself and say, she's not her. They're not them. And I immediately said, wow, I wonder how many other people have this issue. How many other people don't catch themselves? And they say, oh, you just trying to get me. See, I try to do something nice for you, and this is how you do. You just try to, manipulate me. No, matter of fact, I stopped myself to the point where I didn't even check the bill. Okay, so your lunch was this much? No problem. Was there a delivery fee or anything else that I need to pay? It literally changed that experience. I went from like, Detective Rowe's going to need to get on this case. Let me get my accounting hat on and start doing the numbers. To what am I tripping about? This is the gift that you wanted to give. Did you not want to give it? Because if you didn't want to give it, that's a whole different conversation. However, if you do want to give it, you should be giving it to somebody that you have at least a trusting enough relationship in that you don't need to check the numbers. And so I stopped myself. But that doesn't mean that there will be other people that I have experiences with that I might try to trust and find out that they betray my trust. And then they'll be in the category with the people that I don't trust. However, what I won't do is take the category of the people that I don't trust and arbitrarily apply it to people who I have no reason not to trust. So that's what really sparked this for me. And it was about really asking myself what was my compass in that moment. And I felt my compass. I was trying to throw away my good compass and use the compass of, well, this woman before has lied to me and told me totals, and I've paid those totals and later found out that I was lied to. I almost tried to pick up that compass and utilize it to point me and say, oh yeah, you just like that one. No, you're not. You're actually nothing like that one. And because you're nothing like that one, I need to treat you in this unique experience accordingly. So that's what They're Not Them is all about. I know this was a little bit longer Wednesday word, but I was gone for a week. So boom, that's how we come back. We come back strong. But other than that, I thank you guys for rocking with me today on the Wednesday word. Thank you for your patience while we were having technical difficulties last week. If you're in the live chat, Bruce, Bob, Mark, those are the people I see. Thank you guys for rocking with me live. For those who are watching via the replay, thank you guys for taking the time and the opportunity to watch this on the replay. The next time we will actually be live will be on Tuesday, June 4th. And that will be for an intersession at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That topic is supporting positivity with the gentleman in the chat, Bruce Gatewood. If you want to see what that's about, please come in, tune in live, be a part of that conversation, get involved. Other than that, thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you guys for watching and rocking with the first row. Continue with us as we continue to grow. Hopefully you're getting the growth that we're getting from this content as well. I look forward to seeing you guys the next time, or next week actually now at this point, on the first row. Until then, if you like this video, share it. If you share it, like it. Happy to engage with you in the comments up until 7 days after the content has been released. If you have not subscribed, please click that subscribe button now and click the bell so you can be notified when we are live on the first row. And then other than that, thank you guys for rocking tonight. One love, peace, and God bless.